Okay, just got two more people. I should mention that there was a little discussion that we had about the story of Abaye bringing a sheep with him into the bathroom to save him from the mazikin, from the demons, possibly from the snakes and scorpions as well. I don't know, but definitely from the demons. So the interesting thing is that a question came to Rav Moshe Feinstein if someone was allowed to bring a dog into the shul. And it was a situation where he was blind and he needed the dog to help direct him, and it was considered like a tzorech gadol, a very big necessity to bring the dog into shul. So Rav Moshe Feinstein, who was the big halachic authority, passed away about 30 years ago. And before, close to 40 years ago, he was a major halachic authority, and he wanted to bring a proof from our Gemara. And our Gemara had mentioned that Abaye's mother had brought this sheep, had brought up a sheep in order to be able to accompany Abaye wherever he went, especially when he went to the bathroom. So Rashi says on this Gemara that she brought up the sheep, she taught it to go with him always. So our Gemara is talking about saving him from the demons in the bathroom, but the way Rashi understands it is that, of course, he used it everywhere. He just additionally used it to go with him into the bathroom so that he would be saved from any demons. Now, Rav Moshe Feinstein says, you see from there, if it was with him always, where was Abaye all the time? He must have been the Beis Medrash in the Beis HaKnesses. He was in shul all day. So if she was bringing it up for him, teaching, training it to go with him all the time, that must include going to the Beis Medrash and the Beis HaKnesses. That means it must have gone with him into all these places. So that means that you see, you could take a dog into a shul. If you could take a sheep into a shul, you could take a dog into a shul. So Rav Moshe Feinstein said it's not 100% proof, but it definitely is it's a little proof. And then he brings a full-fledged proof from a Yerushalmi that says that taking a chamar, a donkey, into a shul was okay, or at least for if there's a major necessity. So therefore, Rav Moshe paskin that it was permissible to take the dog into the shul. Yes, Ben.
Yeah, I wanted to say today they call it emotional support.
Yeah.
They take it on the flights and they
Right.
Rabbi.
Yes.
In the translation it says lamb. So the difference is that a lamb is less than a year old, and a sheep is more than a year old. So a sheep is going to be much larger than a lamb.
Okay, maybe that's a better. Maybe I should have translated it as a lamb. But Rav Moshe didn't seem to differentiate between a lamb and a dog. I'm guessing that the same rule would have been if it was a sheep or a lamb. But okay, yeah, it's good. Thank you for correcting me. In any event, so that's a little piece on the previous Gemara. There was also a discussion. There is a Gemara that talks about how that person shouldn't seclude himself with, number one, from someone from the opposite sex, and there is a Gemara that talks about even secluding oneself with a behemoth, with an animal. And Abaye, it says, used to be careful, even in the desert or in the forest, I should say, that he wouldn't made sure there were no animals around. I guess when he was studying or hanging out there or praying or meditating. And so they ask a question, how did he was always going with this lamb. How did he do that if he was always so careful not to go with any animal? not to be in a secluded area with an animal. So the commentaries explain that it must be that when he was younger, he wasn't so strict. It's only an extra chumrah. It's like an extra level of extra caution, extra strictness. That's not part of the letter of the law, and therefore, Abaye, when he was younger, he wasn't on that level. So he obviously, then it was no problem. But later on, he was strict that not to be secluded with even with an animal.
I think it's an extra stringency.
Exactly, it's an extra stringency. Okay, and we also learned about the. We learned about the hesped, that a person is supposed to be careful not to embellish too much. It actually is brought in Shulchan Aruch about this. And one of the questions the Taz has is, he asks on the Shulchan Aruch, he says, what's the difference if you do a little or a lot? Both of them are a lie. It's a lie. If you're not allowed to embellish, so why should it make a difference if you do a little embellishment is allowed? So he says an interesting thing. He says, if you would know that the person needs a drop extra money, that you gave him $100, he really needs $110. Would you have given that extra? For sure. If you knew exactly that he needed a little extra, you would have gone that extra thing. If your mitzvah, you did a mitzvah in a certain thing, but you knew you should have done a little more. If you would have known, you would have done a little extra if you knew it. So therefore, he says, embellishment it's not really a lie, because if it would have needed for you to do a little more, you would have done more. Everyone will do a little more for a mitzvah. And therefore, he says, to embellish a little bit is not a problem. That's his explanation, at least, of why you're allowed to embellish. The way I explained it was that people have more mitzvahs than we imagine. We only see some of them. But we know that every yid is mulei mitzvahs karimain. And therefore, if you embellish it a little, you say it was very generous. He was just generous. He wasn't very generous, but probably he was very generous. You just didn't see everything that he did. So you called it, so in the hesped, you could say he was very generous, even though he was just generous, But anyway, this is another understanding of the fact that had a person known that he needs to do a little extra, he would have. That's enough to consider it to be an honest statement. Anyway,
yes? What about a white lie? Is that a little lie or a big lie?
So here we're talking about doing something positive, because you're honoring someone, honoring someone after their passing. But a white lie is tricking someone. I don't know. I don't think any of those works. Okay, so then the next Gemara mentioned that the Gemara on 62a. Oh, I'm sorry. We really went much further ahead.
Yeah, we're on 62b.
62b, yeah, correct. So
we did Aleph and Bet and 62b.
Yes.
8 Ayin B.
I just want to go over a little of what we did. So the Gemara that we started on Friday, with the new Gemara on Friday, was that Bar Kapara would sell words for a dinarim. He was like a poet. He had good lines, and so he would give you advice, sell you some good advice. So one of his lines was, while you're still hungry, or according to Rashi, it's while you're still hungry, you should eat, because if you wait too long, you're going to lose your desire to eat, and then the food, and you won't be satisfied. The other explanation that we learned was the Rambam, that don't eat unless you're really hungry. And then we had a deeper meaning from the Vilna Gaon that was when you're hungry for Torah, grab the opportunity and learn Torah right away. Don't wait because it might leave and something else will come up and you won't have the opportunity to learn while you're interested in learning. You should grab it. And Ad Tzachis should say, while you're thirsty, you should drink. Again, you have Rashi's Pshat, you have the Rambam, that you only drink when you're really thirsty to drink. And then you have I mentioned that it's a little surprising to me that the Vilna Gaon explains over here that it's referring to mitzvahs. That somehow drink is similar to mitzvahs. I have to look it up to see exactly how he compares drinking to mitzvahs. But that's how he explains it. That when a mitzvah, it's a famous statement in the Gemara, other places, that mitzvah shabal liyadai liyadcha al tach mitzena. Don't let a mitzvah that comes to your hands. Don't let it rise and become chametz. Make sure to do it right away. Or mitzvah shabal liyadai, mitzvah that comes to your hand, you should grab it.
I think they talk about water being the Torah, so maybe
right.
That gets to mitzvot.
That's what I'm saying. No, Torah is compared to food, compared to water, compared to wine, compared to oil. There's all different. But when it comes to mitzvahs, generally we say mitzvahs are more the garments. So I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we have our some knowledgeable people here in Hasidic teachings, like Reb Betzalel. Maybe is it brought down that drink is similar to mitzvahs? Is that brought down in Chassidus? Are you familiar with that, David? Maybe you know. Guess not. Okay.
I haven't heard that.
Right. Okay. So that's why I was questioning. Anyway, the Vilna Gaon says that, I guess, according to his understanding, but I don't know if it's brought that way in Hasidic teachings. But then the Gemara mentions that Adaroscha Kederach Shfoich, which literally means when your pot is boiling, you should, while it's boiling, spill it out, and don't wait any longer. And what it refers to is when a person needs to use the bathroom, they should use it, not hold it in. And the Gemara also mentioned karya baraimi, if they're sounding the horn in Rome, which means they're looking to buy figs. Bar mezabin te'eni de'avach zabin. The son who sells figs, and the son of someone who sells figs, you should sell your father's figs, because you have people who want to buy it. Don't wait till your father comes back, but grab the opportunity and buy it.
Sell it.
And sell it. The next Gemara mentions that the Abaye told. So these were certain sayings that Bar Kapara would give people, and I guess people liked it, like a book of advice, self-help. People would live with these lines, I guess. Abai told the rabbis, when you go to the Shvilei de Mechuzah, when you go to these small paths, outside the city, going to use to relieve oneself, you should look to either side, because it's possible that women are there and it's not proper to look. Now Rav Safra went to a bathroom, and Reb Abba came, and he made a sound by the door that what did you say?
That there was somebody there. He made a sound to let him know that there was somebody there. in the bathroom.
I think it means that Rav Safra was there. Rav Abba came in Nachar Le Abava. He wanted to enter.
Yeah. You knock to see if somebody is in there.
So he told him. So Rav Abba said, Leol Mar. Rav Abba said, no, not Rav Abba. Rav Safra said, yeah, come in. So again, Rav Abba was the one who made noise. Rav Safra spoke. So that was the thing, that Rav Abba was surprised that Rav Safra spoke. So after he went out, Rav Abba said, why are you acting like the Romans, that you speak in the bathroom? Why are you acting like this? You never even went to Seir, to Rome. Why are you learned already from the Romans? You didn't even go there. So didn't we learn that you're not supposed to speak in a bathroom? And he brings a proof from the Beis Hamikdash. They had a Beis HaKisei Shel Kavod because it had a door, and if it was closed, if it was locked, you knew that someone was there. And so you see, you're not supposed to have to speak. They tried to go get around speaking in the bathroom. So the Gemara answered that Rav Safra that spoke, he thought maybe Reb Abba was an emergency, and because we have a brisa that says that if a person holds himself back from relieving himself, it could bring to some sickness called hadroikin, and if a person holds himself back from urinating, it could lead him to some type of a jaundice. Then it said that Rebbe Lazar went, and this Roman came and pushed him out, and that was the story where a snake came and messed and killed this Roman. And Rebbe Lazar was like a miracle that happened. Rebbe Lazar found a pasuk in Yeshaya that says, "I will put a person in your place." And he said, "Don't read it Adam, read it Edom. I will put a Roman in your place." So then we had the Gemara that all about David and Shaul, and that was nice because we've learned this in the book of Shmuel, and now we're seeing the Gemara's expounding on the actual story, that based on the fact that the wording is surprising grammar, the Gemara understands that there's a story behind the story. There must be there's in between the letters, in between the lines, there's really another story there, and it's hinted to us from the fact that the grammar is not correct. And from the fact that the grammar is not correct, it's hinting to us another part. In other words, the grammar, the way it says it, is actually hinting to us, and it now becomes correct based on the new story, based on the story that's not revealed to us. The letters reveal it to us because now the words make sense. What's the grammar? It says, and he said to kill you, and he had mercy on you, and it had mercy on you. So initially it seems surprising. It's David is speaking. He should have said, and I thought to kill you, and I had mercy on you. So the third party, it's really using this language as if it's a third party, and it's really David talking about himself. So the Gemara explains that really it's not talking about himself. It really is a third party, because it's really talking about Hashem. Because there's a law that says a person comes to kill you, you're allowed to kill him first. Self-defense. And therefore, Hashem told me to kill you. V'atochas alecha, and it had mercy on you. And here's the story part, that it had mercy on you means because you were so tznius, that caused that I didn't kill you. I saw you act in a holy manner, so it was a sign that you didn't deserve to die, or something to that effect. And therefore, David saved his life. David didn't kill him. So in other words, what was it that saved him? V'atochas alecha, it was a third party. It was his tznius. It wasn't me that chose to save you. It was me because of your tznius. Your tznius really is what caused you to be saved. So again, this is the hint to this new story based on the fact that the grammar is telling us that there is another story over here. Umaihi, what is that? that what is that sneas that he had? So it mentions that it says Gidrais. There were walls. He went a wall within a wall, and it also there's another hint that it means a cave within a cave. And then lahasech, it means he was like he covered himself over so he acted with tznius, with modesty. And then the Gemara mentions that David HaMelech cut off the corner of his garment, the knaf ha'me'il, and he did it quietly. And we also connect that with a story later on in the Book of Kings where David is not he doesn't feel warm ever. He's freezing wherever he goes. And David was getting older. They tried to warm him with clothing. It didn't warm him. He was always freezing. And the reason, so the Gemara is expounding on this story and saying these two stories are connected because he disgraced the clothing. Therefore, clothing did not warm him. And then the Gemara comes to this story of David said something that was a little disgraceful against Hashem. A little derogatory. It was not honorable, respectful to say this, and because he said it, Hashem caused David to make a mistake in something that even children know, and that's the Gemara that we are up to. So we are about halfway down the page of page 62b, and we are must be about, let's see, about 30 lines up from the bottom. 30 lines up from the bottom of the page, 62b. Im Hashem hesischa bi yarach mincha. That if Hashem is like angry and he's incited you against me, so may he smell my sacrifice, my prayer, basically. Mincha is like a type of sacrifice or a gift. So if Hashem so David said these words to show that if Hashem has like Sischa is like mesis umediach. It's like when someone convinces someone else. It's like missionizes someone to do something, convinces someone, seduces someone, but he's using it against Hashem. If Hashem has incited you against me, so David is trying to tell Shaul, I don't know why you're running after my life. I did nothing wrong to you. I could have killed you 2 times. And if Hashem really wants you, has incited you against me, so I'm praying to him and I'm begging him for mercy. Now, so the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu David. So Hashem said to David, Mesis currently, you're calling me someone who's a mesis, someone who incites others to do something. It's not respectful. And Harei ani machshilcha b'davar, I'm going to cause you to stumble in a thing that even students are familiar with. What is that? It's a verse. As it says, when you count the Jewish people, the heads of the Jewish people, according to their numbers, each person should give a atonement for their soul. And what that means is that that each person is not supposed to be counted, as we all know. It's something where anyone goes to shul, they don't count 10 people. You count a shia es amecha, right? You never count the minyan, the people. We always count with a pasuk, with words. And this is something that David made a mistake with. David actually counted the Jewish people, even though everyone knows, and there's a verse in the Torah that says that if you have to count the Jewish people, you know what they used to do? They would give a half a coin, And they would count how many coins. That's the way it was done. And that was right in the Torah. It talks about counting the Jewish people. Each one gave a half a shekel. And the half a shekel, you add up all the half a shekels, you see how many half a shekels there are, and you know how many people there are. So this is something that everyone knows. Miyad, immediately, Vayamod Satan al Yisrael, Satan arose against the Jewish people, and it says Uksiv, and it says that Vayoses as David, and the same term Vayoses, he incited David. Vayoses as David Bahem, he incited David about the Jewish people. Lamar saying, Lech Menei Yisrael, go count the Jewish people. So what happened was David was sort of like caught off guard a little, and he was sort of like tricked into this because Hashem told Satan to do this to try to incite David to quickly to count the Jewish people, and he didn't use the coins. He just counted them. And when he counted them, he didn't take the coin. He didn't do the atonement. And as it says, V'yitin Hashem dever, and Hashem made a plague happen in Yisrael against the Jews. From the morning until a prescribed time. Now, what does this mean? That Hashem caused there to be some type of plague. We'll soon see that it means one person died. But that person was a very holy person, a very righteous person who was equal to the Ruba Shel Sanhedrin. We'll soon see. It was equal to the majority of the Sanhedrin. To the greater, he was a very scholarly person, holy person. And so this happened because David HaMelech, initially, where did it start from? David HaMelech said a derogatory term for Hashem. So Hashem caused the same concept, Vayoses, he incited Satan against David to make David make a mistake. And then David caused, this mistake happened, it ended up causing there to be this plague, which caused someone to die. Now, first of all, you have to understand that David didn't just make a simple mistake like that. There must have been some logic behind David's. There must have been some logic behind what David did. So the commentaries explain, at least one of the commentaries, one of the answers that's given is that David counted the Jewish people because he thought that the rule that you need to count with coins was applicable only in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's when they needed to count with coins. Doesn't say clearly that you're not allowed to do this in the future. So David understood that doesn't apply anymore. He was wrong. So in other words, Hashem made Satan incite him and cause him to make this mistake to differentiate between before and after, during the earlier days and later on. But basically, David did make a mistake. But again, it's not that he didn't remember a pasuk. It's that he thought that there was a difference between the time where the Mishkan was being built and afterwards. And he thought that at the time of the Mishkan being built, that's when this law applied. And so he made that mistake. Now, additionally, we also have to understand that Hashem would not just cause this tzaddik to pass away just because David made a mistake, so someone else dies. So we have to understand it, that person deserved to die for a sin. And Hashem made that his death would come through the hands of David because David also made a mistake. In other words, the best case scenario of this person dying would have been not through the hands of David. In other words, it would have been better if the person was going to die anyway. But why does it have to go through the hands of David that this person died? In other words, why does it come on account of David's sin that the Satan comes in and basically brings this plague that causes that person to die? Let him die from his own things. Why is he dying? Why is he dying from David's sin. But why? Because this was like a punishment for David, that he that he called Hashem a masis, an inciter, and that caused, in other words, even though he obviously didn't mean it, he didn't mean it in a negative, he didn't mean it in a negative way, but he wasn't careful how he worded his statement about Hashem. Yes, Yehuda.
Yeah, I think there's a parallel in last week's Parsha with Satan causing Sarah's death.
Interesting.
Now, she was supposed to die at that time anyway.
Right.
But Satan still caused her death.
Right. Interesting. The fact that she heard that her son almost was slaughtered caused her to die. Now, there is a pshat. There is one of the commentaries says that actually she died from joy. So there is a sort of like an opposite way of learning, that she did die from hearing that he was almost brought as a korban, but her death came about because she was so excited that he was almost brought as a sacrifice. Wow, who could imagine bringing such a gift? And so it's hard to say maybe that it was like a Satan's fault that she died. It was sort of like from her joy. She died from her joy. That's one shot. But again, according to the simple shot.
But the thing is that I think that it may be a medrash or it may be in the Torah, but that when Yitzchok got to 5 years within her age, he started to concern himself with his own death. So that
it proves that she was going to die then anyway.
Right.
Good point. That's a good proof. I like that, Yehuda.
So, but the thing is, just what you said about Sutton with David, I just saw the connection from that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It seems there seems to be a little connection. Of course, Isaac, I know he's really wants to tell us that Yitzchok was slaughtered. I know Isaac's part.
That she was afraid that he was stopping it.
Right. There is such a vart. But Isaac, as I always tell you, it's a very nice vart.
I'm not saying another word.
No, it's a good vart. I like it, but it's not the only vart. That's all. It's not the only interpretation. But anyway, it's good. It's good. No, you love saying that vart. It's fine. It's good. Everyone has to have their. The Gemara in the end of Marcheshvan talks about each person had their b'mai havi zohir tfei. Actually, that's another Gemara somewhere else mentions my havi zohir tfei. But in the end of Marcheshvan, it also says like certain what was his most important mitzvah. He was ba chabakuk v'hamidon alachas. Like there are certain people they have. You find your mitzvah, your specialty. Like there was a rabbi in Israel that had 60 something pairs of tefillin, pairs of tzitzis that he would wear. Tzitzis, he would wear like a crazy amount of tzitzis because that was his mitzvah. His mitzvah was the mitzvah of tzitzis. Anyway,
I met him in Miami Beach. He came to Rabbi Weberman's shul.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's a good connection. I like the connection, Yehuda. Thank you. So getting back to our Gemara. So the Gemara is talking about this story of David counting the Jewish people, and it seems as if it's almost like David's fault because it boils down to his mistake in how he referred to Hashem as a masis, as someone who incited Shaul to go against him. And it's not that it wasn't wrong. It's not that it was wrong what he said. It was wrong how he said it, how he worded it. Now, the Gemara says, so how long did this plague take place? So mayes mayed, what does it mean? From the morning until the prescribed time. And the Gemara answers, Amar Shmuel, Saba, Shmuel, the elder said, Chasne de Rebbe Chanina, the son-in-law of Rebbe Chanina, I said, Mishmei de Rebbe Chanina, in the name of his father-in-law, that Mishas Shchitas HaTamid, it means that the plague lasted from when they shechted the Tamid, they slaughtered it, until Ad Shas Rikasi, until the time when it was, they sprinkled the blood, which is a very short time period. And in that time period, there was a plague. And basically, as we'll soon see, one person died of that plague. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ad Chatzos Mamish. Rabbi Yochanan says no, it was much longer. It's from the time they slaughtered the tamid, the morning sacrifice, the daily sacrifice, until midday, until noon. So in any event, that's how long the plague lasted. That means that there was an angel of death that was around during that time, and he was trying to destroy. And the Gemara continues and explains, Vayomer lamalach hamashkes biyam rav. And he said to the angel, hamashkes, that's to destroy, that's destroying ba'am rav, against a big nation. Now, what does this mean? That you have to understand what the Gemara is dealing with here. The Gemara is trying to expound on the verse. The problem is you have to know the verse before it, because the verse before it makes this verse sound a little redundant. Let me pull up over here what the verse was. On the side of my Gemara, I have different verses. I just got to see which one it is here. Okay, so it says that Hashem made a dever. Did someone want to say something? Hashem made a dever. He made a plague amongst the Yidden from the morning till this prescribed time, which we just explained, either means a very short period of time from the morning till the throwing of the blood, from the beginning of the slaughtering till the sprinkling of the blood, or it means until midday. And Vayamas min ha'am midan vad Beersheva shivim elafish. So that's the verse that he killed from the nation, from Dan until Beersheva, 70,000 people. Now, the Gemara is going to explain that it doesn't mean 70,000, but anyway, it says 70,000 people. And then comes the verse, as in chapter 24, in verse 16, the next verse is verse 16, it says, the angel sent his hand over Yerushalayim, Lashachsa, to destroy it. Vayinachem Hashem al hara, and Hashem had mercy on the evil. Vayomer lamalach hamashkes biyam rav, and he told the malach that's destroying against the big nation, ata heref yodcha. Now you should let go of your hand, loosen your hand. So the problem is that it says be'am rav. He was destroying be'am rav. Now it already said in the previous verse 70,000. So why is it adding on a big nation? He was destroying a big nation, a big amount of people. It said already it was 70,000. Just say that he was told the angel that was destroying to stop, let go. It says Ba'am Rav. It must be telling us a story. It's a hint to something that we would have understood wrong. And therefore, it's adding these words to explain something that we should understand it a little differently than the norm. So the way it explains it is that because it says Am Rav, so Amar Rabbi Elazar, the Hashem told the angel, Rabbi Elazar expounds on it this way, that Hashem told the angel, Toili Rav Shebahem, take for me the Rav, the greatest one, the rabbi, the leader amongst them, sheyesh boy lipara mehem kama chayvos, because in him, boy, means in him, there's enough to collect many debts, meaning many sins. And Ba'isa Shah, Mesa Avishai ben Tzeruya, at that time, Avishai ben Tzeruya passed away. Sheshakol Keruba Shel Sanhedrin, who was equal to the majority of the Sanhedrin. So what it explains is, according to this understanding, is that Hashem told him just take the great person, the great one, and that one is Ba'am Rav, just take the Rav, the great one, and that will be, or from the word Ruba Shel Sanhedrin, from the word majority, that he was equal to the majority of the Sanhedrin, and that will be considered as, that will be the punishment. So then the verse continues and says, Ukeshehishches ra Hashem, ukehashches ra Hashem vayinochem. And during the destruction, Hashem saw and had mercy, and basically retracted. So my ra, what did he see? So Amar Rav says, ra Yaakov Avinu. He saw Jacob, saw some type of merit that Jacob had. As it says, Vayomer Yaakov kasher ra'am, that Yaakov saw when he saw them, and it's referring to at the end of Vayishlach, or the end of Vayetze, that he saw the angels. He was Yaakov was leaving Lavan's house, and he saw groups of angels. So they were greeting him, and so he saw them. So what this refers to, since it uses the term ra'ah, that he saw, it talks about Jacob seeing angels, and here it uses the term ra'ah, so it means Hashem saw Jacob's merit. In other words, the Gemara is connecting the word ra'ah that it says in this verse to the ra'ah that it says in another verse, and therefore it's saying this must be what gave merit to the Jewish people. So it sounds like Hashem wanted to destroy 70,000 people, and he ended up just killing Avishai ben Tzeruya, and he was equal to the majority of the Sanhedrin, and somehow that was Hashem had mercy. Why did Hashem have mercy? So now our Gemara says, it uses the word ra'ah, that's a hint again. We're seeing different hints. It's hinting to the merit of Yaakov. Then the Gemara says, Shmuel says, Afrei shel Yitzchok ra'ah, that he saw the afer, the ashes of Yitzchok, shenemar, as it says, Elokim yira lo haseh, Hashem will see the sheep, and so what do we see from there? That Hashem will always see the sheep, and or whenever is necessary, Hashem will see those ashes from the sheep. So it says the ashes of Yitzchok. Now, the way I just translated it makes it very simple, that we're talking about not Yitzchok himself's ashes, but the ashes of the sheep. And it uses the word ra'ah there, Hashem yira lo yaseh. And it makes sense that whenever it's necessary, we take advantage of those ashes that were burned on the altar. It was the sheep that was slaughtered instead of Yitzchok. And whenever Hashem sees that, he has mercy. And we use that often. Now, the other pshat is that we're not using the ashes of the sheep that was slaughtered, but rather what we're really referring to is that when Yitzchok was almost slaughtered, Hashem imagined that his ashes were there, and he kept that imagination always in front of him. And so it's referring to not the ashes of the sheep, because after Jacob slaughtered the sheep, he burnt it on the altar and there were ashes, but we're not referring to that. we're referring to that imagination that Hashem imagined Yitzchok being slaughtered and burned. Hashem took that imagination and put it under his throne to always look at whenever is necessary. And so because of that, it's considered, and it says about the story of Yitzchak, Yireh, that Hashem will see. So that point is used to tell us that that's what Hashem had. It gave Hashem it gave Hashem mercy that he should retract from his decree and not kill make such a big plague. So that is another answer. So we have one answer that it's the merit of Jacob. Another answer, it's the merit of the ashes of Yitzchak. And in this answer, we explained it two ways. One way is the ashes of the sheep, and another way is the ashes that Hashem imagined would be from Yitzchak's. There is a statement in the Talmud that says, Machshava Tova, good thought, Hashem considers it as if you did it. So Abraham was ready to do this. Hashem considered it as if it was done, and he took that imagination of as if it was done, the ashes of Yitzchak, and he put it before him. And now we have a third answer that Rabbi Yitzchok Nafcha says, Kesef Kippurim Ra'ah. Hashem saw the money that was used by the first counting, and Shenemar, as it says, that it says that this money of atonement will be for remembrance for Hashem to atone. And what is it referring to? Which atonement was needed? When was their atonement needed? It's referring to the atonement of David HaMelech's sin for counting the Jewish people. So that's the third answer. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, it's a fourth answer, that Beis HaMikdash Ra, that I saw the Beis HaMikdash, and that was gonna, the Beis HaMikdash, it also says the word Yera'eh, the Chsiv, Bahar Hashem Yera'eh, in the mountain of Hashem, he will be seen, or he will Yera'eh, Yera'eh, he will show, he will make himself seen. On the mountain of Hashem, he will make himself seen. So the Beis HaMikdash is what Hashem saw, and what that means is that Hashem saw the Beis HaMikdash, and he said, I'm not going to destroy more people. Now, the question really is, so what sin did they really do? What sin is it that they deserve this punishment? Of course, David deserved the punishment that he counted the Yidden. But what did the Jewish people do? So it is brought down that they didn't initiate enough trying to build the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, Hashem's in a state of homelessness, and he should, even though David at one point earlier wanted to build the Beis HaMikdash, and Hashem pushed him off and told Nasan Hanavi, to tell David, don't do it. But the thing is, the Jewish people didn't seem to push enough for the building of the Beis HaMikdash, and because of that, it seems that this was why they deserved some type of punishment over here. So the Gemara continues and says, Kligiba Reb Yaakov Bar Idi, Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani. There's an argument over here between two rabbis. The opinions of these rabbis are similar to the opinions that we've just seen. That Chad Amar Kesef HaKippurim Ra'a. One of them said he saw the Kesef HaKippurim, which is Reb Yitzchok's Nafcha's statement in our Gemara, and the other one said V'chad Amar Beis HaMikdash Ra'a, which is Reb Yochanan's statement in our Gemara. So one of them followed Reb Yitzchok Nafcha's way of looking at it. The other one was along the lines of Reb Yochanan. that Hashem saw the merit of the Beis Hamikdash that's going to be built, and possibly this is the place where it's going to be built, and therefore he had mercy. Now the Gemara says, "Umistabra commando Amar Beis Hamikdash Ra." The Gemara says it would seem that the opinion that Hashem saw the Beis Hamikdash and had mercy on the Jewish people, it would make sense that that's what it's referring to, because it says, as it says, Asher Yeomer Hayoim Bahar Hashem Yeroeh, that it will be said today that on the mountain of Hashem he will make himself seen. So the merit of the Beis Hamikdash, because it says Hayoim, this day, that means that the merit of the Beis Hamikdash is always available, and therefore it would make sense that in David's time, that would be the time that you would need this, that when you would need this atonement, this would be applicable for the community, even at this later time. So that is the conclusion of the Gemara, that it would make sense that it's that he saw the Beis Hamikdash and therefore he had mercy on the Jewish people, and he did not destroy more. He just killed Avishai, the son of Tzruya, and that is the end of that story in Shmuel Beis. Now the Gemara jumps to another interesting topic, and that is that are you allowed to use the Beis Hamikdash, or the same thing would be a shul? Would you be allowed to use it as a shortcut? And the same thing would apply. Would you be allowed to go into a shul, or similar laws apply? Let's say it's raining outside. Now, I'm not talking about entering a shul, entering the lounge. I'm talking about, let's say there's a shul that opens right up to the synagogue room. If you walk into the lounge or the social hall is one thing, but here you're walking right into the shul. There are some shuls, they don't have, they're small, they're houses. It's based in a house, and you walk right into the shul. There's no like side room, there's no coat room, there's no outer room, there's no outer chamber. You walk right into the shul. So the question is, it's very cold and you want to warm up. Would you be allowed to walk in? What about if you need to call someone? The phone, there's a phone outside the shul. And of course, nowadays, this doesn't happen so often. But in the olden days, when you had pay phones, someone called, or there was a regular phone for the shul phone. And so now you got to call the guy inside the shul. Are you allowed to walk in the shul just to call someone? Again, you're not going in for the right purposes. You're not going in to daven, to learn, to get an aliyah. You're going in simply to get someone. So are these respectful? Is this respectful? So the Mishnah talked about on the mountain, the Temple Mount, what would not be appropriate. So the Mishnah said, Lo yikanis adam lahar habayis, person shouldn't enter the har habayis, and it mentions not with his makloi, not with his stick, and the Mishnah mentioned also that you can't make a kapendria. And we translated kapendria as a shortcut. But our Gemara, it sounds like kapendria was not Aramaic. Maybe it was a borrowed term from, Greek or some other language. So the Gemara asks, what is this? My kapendria. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rava kapendria kishma. Kapendria is like its name, like it sounds, and like it implies. Rav Chana Bar Adam, Mishmeid Rav Sama, Bred Rav Mari Yamar, and this rabbi explains, you know what it means? What does it mean? Like, what does it sound like? What does kapendria sound like? So, Commando Amar Inish, like people say, Adamakivna Adare Eyol Baha. Instead of going around the Dari, the rose, Eyol Baha, go up here in this. I will, go right here. And meaning that I will take a shortcut. Instead of going around, I will go straight. So that's the word kapendria, is a acronym, Ademakifna Adare Eyol Baha. It's like a few words put together in one, and that's where the word comes from, and it basically means a shortcut. So you're basically not allowed to use the Temple Mount as a shortcut. So if you need to go to the other side, walk around. Don't walk through it. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. Nachman says the name of Nachman, the name of Rabba Baravua. If a person enters a shul, if you enter without having in mind to use it as a shortcut, then you are allowed to use it as a shortcut. What does that mean? That means is that if you enter it, let's say in one door, but then when you leave, you say, you know what? It's shorter for me to go out the other door. Are you allowed to do that? You went in, you davened. You went in the door on the east side, but really the west side door is going to be closer for you. Are you allowed to go out the west side door if you entered on the east side door? You didn't use the shul initially as a shortcut. You used it to daven. But now that you entered already, so would you be allowed to go out the opposite, different door, which will make your way closer? So the Gemara answers that if you entered without having in mind to use it as a shortcut, then you are allowed to use it as a shortcut. Mutter la soisei kapendri. Rebavo Amar Rebavo says, if it was a pathway before the shul was built, it is permissible to use the shul as a way of shortcut, and you would be allowed to go through the shul if it was a pathway from its beginning, in other words, before the shul was built. Now, if it was a house before the shul was built, you couldn't make it. You can't do that. But if it was a pathway, then you would be allowed to do this, because it initially used as a road, as a shortcut. So somehow, and it's a little unclear what the reason is. Just 1 second, something's wrong here. Oh, okay. It's a little unclear what the reason is. What is the reason why, if it was once a pathway, would it be allowed now to use it as a shortcut? It's a shul. You're not allowed. It's disrespectful. So something that comes to my mind is the fact that once it was like a derech harabim. It was weighed for the people. So maybe the shul, it can't really take away from that. And even if it becomes a shul, it maybe maybe doesn't really remove the fact that it was public property to be able to be walked through. I don't know. It sounds a little surprising to give such a leniency. There may be some other heter, the fact that the shul, you're not really using the shul as a benefit. It's not like you're now benefiting because the shul is here. You're really benefiting nothing from the shul. You would rather the shul wouldn't have even been here. So if you're using the shul as a way of cooling off from the air conditioning in the shul, then you're benefiting from the shul. Here, before it was a shul, it was perfect. This was the shortcut. This was the road. And now they built a shul there. So you're not benefiting from the shul. You're losing out from the shul, but you're walking through it because it always was a pathway, and you're walking through it is in no way benefiting you, except for the fact that now that the shul is there, it actually does benefit you, the fact that you don't have to go around. But really, it would have been better if the shul wouldn't have been there. Based on that line, that it would have been better had the shul not been here. Somehow that seems to be maybe a factor here why it should be permissible, because you really don't really want the shul to be here, because you really would have liked to be able to walk through. And so for some reason that allows you to walk to. It allows you to go through as if it was once a pathway, once a road. And the Gemara continues. Oh, I see my time is up. Okay, I guess we're going to